for coming out in the rain. This is what I'd like to do. We did this last year. I'd like to do is just talk to the kindergarten parents, let you know what we do in kindergarten about teaching your children how to read, and some of the things we cover, some of the things you might do at home. We give you just a quick overview and answer any questions you have. Okay? We have twice as many kindergartens this time, and so you know, we have about the same strategies as we had last year. We just have to cover more kids. Okay. Now, reading, of course, is extremely important, but the thing I want you to keep in mind when you're thinking about reading is that reading the English language, sitting down and reading a sentence, is completely arbitrary. It actually doesn't make any sense. When you think you read "the big dog sat on a log," there's no reason in the world, take that, that word big, B-I-G says big, there's no reason in the word that should say big. There's no reason that B should say B, I should say it, G should say good. The only reason we do it is because who knows how long ago a bunch of people got together and just said, this is the code we're going to use. This is what we're going to do. This sound goes with this letter. And then they just went with it, and that became, you know, the language that we're all used to. Which means that your children are being asked to do something that, in a way, doesn't make any sense. Which means you need to be patient with them and understand that this needs to be taught. It's not something that you can just figure out naturally. So when we're doing that, keep that in the back of your mind. When you're reading with your children, keep that in the back of your mind. If they haven't been taught it, if they haven't completely figured it out, if it's not natural to them, you know, it's going to take some time. Go get it. But that's what kindergarten's all about. Okay? So some of the things we're going to talk about today are letters and sounds, word building, high frequency words, and some ideas when you read with your children. And please jump in if you have any questions at all. Okay? So this is going to cover, you know, essentially what we're talking about today. Okay. All right. So, what happens in kindergarten is they go through all the letters, they tell you what sounds they make, and then you start to put them together. I think we have another. Hi.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. If you could do me a favor, I'm Mark. Grab one of those folders, and then in the back, there are 5 stories. Make sure you get one of each of them.
Okay.
And my card if you want it, and then come join us. Okay, we just got started. All right. So, these are some of the things that we cover. They go through every day. Right, Talasia? Do you go over letters? Do you go over sounds? Do you go over high frequency words? There you have it. That's what we do in kindergarten. Which means I need to get out of this slide and go onto something. Now, you'll see this in your folder, so I'd like you to take it out. It says facing text at the top. Bear with me a second. Okay. This is the way kindergarten works. Remember, for some kids, this is the first time that they're really going to start learning about letters, what sound that letter makes, and how you can read it in words. Okay, this goes from 1 down to 30. I'm just showing you the first few. It goes all the way down to 30. The kindergarten curriculum is basically based on 30 weeks. Hi.
Hi.
When? Hi. If you guys could do me a favor, grab one of those folders.
Okay.
And then there are 5 stories in the back. Make sure you get one of each.
Okay.
And then my card if you want it, and then come join us. We were just talking about what happens in kindergarten. So in kindergarten, what I want us to focus on for the next few minutes is this part here, where it says letters and sounds. So you see it in front of you? These are the letters and sounds that they learn in kindergarten. They do not learn A, and then B, and then C, and then D. There are some reasons, but they start with these letters, and they eventually get to A, which is the first vowel. A couple reasons is these are very common letters, and you can make a lot of words with them. Okay? So they started off M, S, R, T, N, T, C, N, A. If you look at this, the reason they do this is once you get to that point, you can start to read an awful lot of words. Nap, pat, rat, this is just off the top of my head. Sat, mat, cat, cat. A lot of them that have a consonant, an A in the middle, and then another consonant at the end. And when we get into word building, you're going to see a little bit more what I'm talking about. Okay, so that was back in September. Then it just keeps going. Right now we're focusing just on this column. I'll talk about this column in a few minutes. Okay, so we get down. You'll notice that I've starred the vowels. It's A, I, vowels being extremely important. O, and E, and both of the teachers are approximately here somewhere. Right about now. They're right there. They might be, I actually think Miss Robinson started on Y and Z today, or in the last couple of days. Okay? They have not gotten to U yet, which is our fifth vowel. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind. Keep that out, if you will. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, so bear with me one more time. Okay, so here we were. Start from the beginning. Okay, so real important. One of the most important things. If you don't remember anything in the next 45 minutes, there are one or two things I want you to just implant in your brain and remember when you're reading with your child, and it will help you. One of them is that students in kindergarten have trouble with the vowels. This is where things start to go wrong. If something's going to go wrong with their ability to read, or if they're going to have a little bit of trouble, they're probably going to have trouble with these vowels. And these are what we call the short vowels. So A makes the sound A, I makes the sound I, O makes the sound A, E makes the sound E, and U makes the sound Anything more complicated than that, they're not going to learn until first grade. Okay? So, your goal, our goal, their goal, all of our goals by the end of kindergarten is to be able to read words with short vowels and get them straight. Okay? If they start to get confused, and they're going to do it a little bit, but by the end of kindergarten, if they're getting confused regularly between some of these, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder, more complex, more confusing, first, second grade, and it'll be harder and harder for them to read. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Sorry for being late.
No problem. Do me a favor, grab one of those manila folders, and then in the back you'll see 5 stories. So
Okay.
make sure you get one of each of those, and my card back there.
Okay.
Okay? So vowels. Keep the short vowels straight. We've already learned A, I, O, and E. They haven't gotten to U yet. They'll get to there in the next couple weeks. And I'm going to show you some strategies for keeping all that straight. This is essentially what I just said. By the end of kindergarten, students have to be able to read short words with short vowels and not confuse them. If they confuse them, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so important. If they confuse them, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. Okay? So here are some short A examples of words. Bat, mat, sack, hat, ran, had. Short I, short O, short E, short E. All these have 3 letters. It's consonant, short vowel, and a consonant. Once they can do this at the end of kindergarten, they can read a lot of sentences. Not extremely complicated sentences, not extremely long words, but they can get through some simple, interesting stories. Okay? So, how do we do this? Any questions about the short vowels? We're gonna hit this a little bit more later on, but I just want to make sure that I've emphasized this enough. Okay. Right, so that is number 1. Let's keep those short vowels straight. Secondly, as students are reading, this is where they also go wrong. I already talked about the short vowels, and that's number 2 down here. But number 1 up here, students tend to guess. They might look at the first letter, and they might get the first letter correct, and then they tend to guess what that word is. We have got to break them of that habit. Okay? There is a process here. There's a whole system. When you are reading words, let's say, it could be anyone. Hip. There's a system here. It's so obvious to you and I and Ms. McCaskey and everybody else. We know how to read and it's so automatic. But when you're first learning, you need to sound this out. It, p. You don't want to look at the picture and get some other ideas in your head. You don't want to be distracted. You don't want to be making things up in your head. You don't want to guess. You need to encourage your kids to sit down, sound out the words. It's a little bit more work, right, Talasia? Am I always telling you to sound out? But if they get in the habit, eventually it'll get easier and easier and easier. If they don't, the guessing is really going to be a problem. It's going to be a bigger problem. They get to first, second grade, and their ability to actually sit down and read the words is going to be a big, big problem. There are students that I work with in a little bit higher grades who guess too much, and it's just a problem. Okay. Okay. So, they have trouble because they guess. They look at the pictures and they try to guess what it is. They want that quick answer. Okay? So they just, like Jeopardy, they just throw out a word. That's not what I want you to do. That's not how you read. Slow down, sound out. Every one of those letters is there for a reason. Everyone makes a sound usually. And that's how we read words. Okay? All the letters, beginning, middle, and end. Kindergarten, we're usually talking about words that have 2 or 3 letters. Okay. Again, if you remember nothing else, sound them out. Don't guess. As you sit and listen to them read, if you catch them taking on these bad habits, we need to stop it. Okay. So we have this thing called word building. Word building is part of the curriculum here at Max that we use, the Storytown curriculum. They use it in kindergarten, 1st grade, and a little bit of 2nd grade. And this is a way to train students to understand the letters and the sounds and to read the words. Okay? Now, for kindergarten purposes, we're talking about CVC words, which you don't have to remember what that means. You don't have to remember CVC. But basically, we're talking about a consonant, a short vowel, and a consonant. So what I'd like you to do is take a look at the other thing that's in your folder. Find it myself. Okay. Word building is something they do several times every week as a way of encouraging them to understand letters and sounds when you read words and spell them correctly. When we're doing word building, let me borrow myself. Okay. There's usually a goal in there, and it usually has something to do with a vowel. Again, the vowels are the problem, usually. The vowels are where they're going to start to get a little bit confused. Okay. Take a look at this. When it comes to word building, I don't necessarily expect you to go home and just start word building with your kids. You know, we do it in school. I do it with a number of kids. The kindergarten teachers do it. But I think it might be helpful to take 5 minutes so you watch me do it, practice doing it, so you can see where we're coming from and why this is important. The second part of word building then would be the stories that you would read as part of the word building, and I do encourage you to do that with your kids. So take a look at this, and there are some step-by-step instructions. I'm not going to go into all kind of detail. Again, I organize my word building lists around the short vowels, especially in kindergarten. And you can see number 1, A, cat, I, hid, O, fox, E, pet, U, bug. Okay? And then if you go about 1.5 pages down, you'll see some lists. So under number 1 it says short A. And those are some word building lists. Now, the good thing about word building, and why I think it works pretty effectively, is when you go from one word to the next word right below that, most of the time you are only changing one letter. That way they hopefully see that that letter stands for a sound. If you take that letter out of the word, the sound goes away. If you bring a new letter into the word, the sound comes back. So I'm going to demonstrate what this very simple, very first, only short A word building would be like. So I need a D, A, S, and an M. This one that you're just watching, you're not participating. So I get out my A. And again, you know, it's sort of up to you whether you think you need to run home and try this, or whether you just want to get an understanding of it. Okay. Do I have a volunteer to be my student?
You want a student to be a student?
Okay. So it says at the top what words you need. It might be slightly hard if you need to orient yourself, stand up, move around. Just what I wasn't able to figure out a way to hold this way up here. So, okay. So I'm using these letters. And the whole point here is we're not teaching them words, we're teaching them letters, because letters with sounds when blended together will make words. Okay? Because if you get these patterns, then you can read other words. We don't just throw whole words at them. Now when I was in school they did throw whole words at me, and somehow I managed to learn reading. But I think this is better. This is something we call phonics. Okay, so who'd like to be my student? No volunteer.
You want a student to be a student?
Sure, come on. I can't remember.
All right, Rasul, good job, buddy.
Rasul, yeah. All right, Rasul, stand over there. Don't block. Okay. Or you can move over a little bit so you can see. I just want them to be able to see. Okay. Here. How about you stand here? Come right over here. You can be on stage. Right there. Can you see?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. I usually ask them to tell me what sounds they make. So what sounds do these make?
B.
This is a D. B and D is very, very, very common. If your kids are confusing B and D, it's very common at this stage. Eventually, it usually works itself out. But you got to remind them. No, it's not a B, it's a D. This is a D, so what sound does it make?
D.
Okay, good. Now, if he had said something besides here, that's a sign that they're starting to confuse the vowels. Okay? Most of them know that A says Usually it's not a problem yet until they get into the other ones. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Actually need another D. Okay. All right. I have you. Can we say more or less? Okay. All right. I'm going to move down my D. Move down my A. And move down my D. What's that word? No, down here.
D.
Okay.
Dad.
Dad. Good. Notice first he said D, D, and then he said it together. Okay. Let's go through a couple more, and then I'll try and make my point here. All right. So let's take the D away from the front, and then let's put our S in the front. How about that one? What's that word?
Sad.
Okay. Let's take the S away. This is a really easy. Take the S away, and let's put the M in the front. What's that word?
Mad.
Okay. Take the M away. Put the D there.
Dad.
Okay, and let's just finish it up. Take the D away from the front. Take the S. Put the S in the front.
Sad.
Okay. Take the S away. Put the D in the front. One repetition. This is a. Okay.
Dad.
Okay. One more. Take the D away. And put the M in front.
Mad.
Okay. Good. Excellent. You can have a seat. Now, a couple things. This is, obviously relatively easy. A lot of people will do this word building. It took what? 4 minutes, and then they'll think, great, let's go to recess. They know how to read. If only it were that easy. The way I do word building is that after you've done this, again, this was simple. There's only one vowel, but it shows you what's going on. After I do this, I have them read a story. The story will have a lot of short A words in it. So let's take a look. Actually, Rasul, you can keep helping me here if you want. Now, unfortunately, it's hard for me to get word building lists that have the exact same words that are in the story, but they have short A words, okay? And knowing Rasul, he'll do fine on this. Okay, if you're just coming in, do me a favor, and we're talking about word building. We're talking about the importance of vowels, keeping the short vowels straight, and understanding how to begin to read words. If you're just coming in, grab one of those manila folders. There are about 6 or 7 there. And then in the back, there are 5 stories. Make sure you get each of those 5 stories too. They all have a lot of short vowels.
We'll see you soon.
Bear with me, sorry. Alright, bear with me 1 second. There's another way I can do it. This is a service that we subscribe to. It's called Reading A to Z. It's a really good kindergarten, first grade kind of. It's got all these resources, and I use it all the time. And I get a lot of those books that you see in front of you from Reading A to Z. So, because it won't open, let's hope it opens here. Okay, we're looking for. At this point, it doesn't matter, but we're looking. All right, Rasul, you still here?
Yes.
Can you fall asleep yet?
No.
Oh, good. apologize for this. All right, here we go. Okay. So this is a story called, you don't have this one, this is called A Tap and a Pat. One of the first stories that I would have kindergarten kids read early on. Because all they know at this point is A. You know, at this point, let's say it's September, the only vowel they've learned is short A. Ah. There we go. Okay, Priscilla, you ready to read?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can you read the title for me? Sound this one out. Okay, good. This is something, if you're not going to do the word building, but you think your kids know their letters and sounds, which they basically all do, you would want to sit down and listen to them read things like this and try to encourage them to sound things out and notice if they are having a little bit of trouble. And then with repetition, they're going to get it. It's going to get easier and easier and easier. Okay, go ahead. A. What's this word? No, it starts with a T. What sound does T make? What's the whole? Good. You might have to tell them this one. And.
N. A.
Good. Very good. Okay. Let's read one page out of this one. All right. Try that one.
Sam.
Good.
Act. Sat. On. The.
This is a T. What sounds T make?
Tan.
Tan.
Tan. Act. Map.
Okay, did you see how beautifully he sounded it out? He went through the system. He followed the rules. That was excellent. That was excellent. So, one or two things before I ask you to do it yourselves. You will have some students. You can sit down. Thank you. Let's take a look at this word mad. You will have students in kindergarten who look at this. They know their letters and their sounds, and they're getting what I'm trying to say, and their teachers are trying to say, sound it out, sound it out, sound it out. And they say, ad, ad, ad. And I say, okay, now make a word. And they'll say, ad. And you could go through this 50 times. And they can't blend it together, but they can get the sounds right. Okay? It's a tricky problem, and as you get later into kindergarten and in first grade, they'll be able to do it better. But one thing you can do is put these two together and say, can you put these two together? Ma. And then this is duh. That way they're only keeping two things straight. They're not keeping three things straight. Ma, duh, and then put the D over and see if they can put it together. It's tricky and it's challenging, but eventually they are going to start to be able to put it together. So what I'd like you to do is get out your word building list and go to the second page, the third page really, where it says short I. What I gave you here was really easy because there's only one vowel. Remember, it's all about the vowels in my mind. I don't know if any of you remember when President Clinton, I'm going to hold off on it. It's all about the vowels. So we've got the short A. I'm going to ask you to do something that has more than one vowel and see if they can keep straight the A and the I. So look at 2 and the second one over. The cards you're going to need are H, I, T, A, D, and S. So you and your folder should have paper clipped together 6 cards, and I'd like you to pair up or work with a child. So either way. One of you gets to be the teacher. If you're with a child, then I guess the adult will be the teacher. Ashley, you can be the child. You want to be the child or the teacher?
Yeah.
I'll let you be the child. Okay. And try to remember, you can go back through the directions a little bit, but remember the system for doing the word building. Please remember that just moving the cards around, that's only half the battle. After you move the cards around, then you want to find one of these stories, and I gave you a short I story in there, and ask your child to start to read it to you. And encourage them as they're reading through the story to sound it out. We'll take, 4 minutes or so. You need the I as part of that.
You don't have an eye?
No, she has an I.
Oh, you have an eye.
Here, I'll show you. Okay, is it clear what I want you to try to do?
I didn't catch the full direction. What was it? Because
Okay.
my daughter, she just stepped out.
She took off on you. Okay, when she comes
just
back,
went to the restroom, sure.
when she comes back, I want you to take your cards, line them up the way I did over there, and then start to move it down. And look at this one. Okay, maybe it wasn't clear. This page says short I. The second column here, the words are hit, hid, had, sad, sat, sit, hit, it, hit. Okay, so we're doing short A and short I. You're going to move the cards around and then ask your child or whoever you're working with to read the words as best they can, sound them out. Any questions about what I want you to try to do? Are we good? Okay. How are we doing? How are we doing? So take these here. Let me start.
Good job.
That's okay. I might not be clear. I'm not sure if it's been clear. Okay. So take this list here. We'll look at this list here. All right? Okay. Actually, tell me what sounds it make.
No. What is this?
Good. Beautiful. Okay. Now I'm going to move down my H. I'm going to move down my I. I'm going to move down my T. Can you read that word?
We did the S.
Okay. What sound does this make? What sound does it make?
Hit.
Okay. Good. Now, that's good. Okay, so now I want you to take the T away. Usually have them move as far as they can. And put the D on the end there. Can you read that? Okay, beautiful. You know, I noticed it's unusual. She takes her time, but then she reads it as a unit, which is good. That's the goal. And she takes her time to do that. She really has that goal in her. Other kids are like, and if you have questions, let me know about how we're going to do this. You okay? You understand what to do? Working on it. Okay. So you're
Part of it. This is where you want to go. How about pets? That's what you want.
Hi, Kayla.
Well, let's do
How we
pets.
doing? Is it clear? What I'm not sure if I've been clear enough.
Okay.
Girl, don't pose. Read.
Read. What's
Go ahead, read. We want to hear you read.
These cards go with this one. Okay. Did you do all right?
Get.
Oh, you did. Okay.
The pet.
Ah. I didn't hear the S.
Pet.
Yes. Okay, here we go.
Okay. So after you're done with those words in the word building list, go to the story. The story's not going to have exactly the same words, but it will have a lot of short I words, and it'll get them practicing. They've been doing it, you know, earlier in the year, but it's good for them to come back to
All
it.
right.
How are we doing? Okay.
Pet.
How are we doing?
You're doing good,
You're
girl.
doing good. Try the one with the eyes in it. Okay. Okay. Sorry. This one. Try this one, because the word building.
Wait a minute.
Oh wait.
Hold on.
Okay. Okay. Let's redo it for a second. Let's take. Okay. What? Okay. This is someone else's stuff.
I mean, that is.
No, that's fine. Okay. Take this list.
Yeah, we did that.
Put out. Oh, you did it. The word building part.
Yeah, she
Great.
did.
Okay. So then go to this because it's got eyes.
Okay.
And.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let's watch how she can do it.
All right. Yeah, we did.
Pen with the
No.
Ten.
Sound it on.
Fin.
Fin. All right. Good. You did a good job.
I like this pen
Okay.
with a tin
What does this?
If I
Good
like
job. Doing a good job.
Said
How would you sound that out?
S
She said,
We'll give it another minute or two, and I think most people seem like they got the gist. When she finishes this, then could you grab? Let me get you the story. So what I made some copies of these that have been filled out. This is obviously this is so after she did something like this, you want her to go straight to some text that has a short. Did you read this one with me? Okay. And I seen her last week when leaving the others come over. So you could go.